Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Now, the Pan-African Enterprise Research Council, or the PAERC, is having its 5th international conference from July 26th to 28th in Trinidad. And so joining us to tell us more about it are the PAERC chairman, Dr. Ralph Henry, and committee members Corinne Gregoire, who joins us in studio, and also Professor Leon Prieto, who is on Zoom. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning.
Thank you. Morning.
So I'm coming to you first, Dr. Henry, because I wanted to know about the Pan-African Enterprise Research Council. Tell us about it.
Yes, it was established in 2012 based on some research that we had been conducting. When I say we, Professor Luan Barclay, who had done work with Professor Selwyn Ryan. They wrote a famous book, Sharks and Sardines. And I got together with her in looking at what has happened 40 years on after the Black Power riots, and realized that the objectives of the government's policy at the time had not been fulfilled, in the sense that it expected that enterprise would have been developed around every aspect of every segment of the community, and that had not happened. And in fact, the sharks had eaten the sardine, according to Williams, in 1979. And fast forward to 2011, 2012, the sharks had been having a whale of a time.
Pun intended.
So we wrote this paper, and we realized that the situation in Trinidad and Tobago was not really atypical, because clearly, when one looked at the United States, when one looked at Brazil, and when one looked at parts of Africa, for example, South Africa, one found that blacks who had suffered slavery, had suffered segregation, had suffered apartheid, had not come to the fore years, as you look forward years after. And we thought that we should get together with other people, and we formed this council. It included Professor Lucy Rubin, who was then teaching at Duke University, Professor Tatkati and Professor Rexon and Wadi, who is they're based in South Africa. And we formed this council. We had the first conference in 2013, which was 2 years before the UN declared the declaration, had that declaration of the people of African descent, looking at what had happened in the diaspora.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Henry, as you're on that topic, because I know that there's the conference that's happening in context of that same United Nations International Decade for People. So tell us about the significance of that conference in relation to what the UN declared.
Well, in a sense, we are doing a review of what has happened over the period, and our conference is the 9th year. Right. The 9th year. The decade ends in 2024?
2024,
yeah. So 9 years on, one could see what had happened.
Yes.
And we are hoping that out of this conference, we not only would have a review of success and failure, but also would help the communities in the diaspora, as well as their governments, recognize the way forward, recognize a path forward, because the problem continues.
Of course.
That Africans are largely marginalized. When you examine the percentage in the population and the extent to which they are all areas of the pyramid, the social and economic pyramid, they're usually at the bottom.
Yeah. And I wonder if Professor Prieto can chime in here. Professor, I'm coming to you because I wanted to know the significance of the conference and how it can aim to, uplift people of African descent.
Absolutely. The essence of this conference is all about empowerment. It's about creating that platform where Black entrepreneurs, innovators, and business leaders can really come together, share ideas, and really build networks, robust networks at that. And we recognize that, people of African descent have faced significant barriers, be it in Point Fortin, where I'm from, born and raised, or be it in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm currently located, or even on the continent of Africa. So people face a lot of barriers historically. So the purpose of this conference is our way of saying, we see you, we value you, and we're here to support you. So this is not just about a meeting of minds and just conversations that's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. We actually plan to take action and actually try to really build connections, build robust networks, and try to really engender sustainable enterprise building throughout the Pan-African diaspora.
Of course. And Ms. Gregoire, I'm coming to you because I wanted to know in terms of the participation, how can somebody register for this? It's taking place, is it from the 26th to the 28th?
Yes. The conference is the 26th to the 28th of July 2023 at UWI St. Augustine campus. The conference is hybrid, so there can be virtual participation as well as in-person participation. Virtual participation is $680 TT or 100 US dollars. In-person participation is $185 US dollars or 1,258 TT dollars. You can register online and from the website. There will be a form on the website that you can use to register. There are 4 methods for payments. One, we can use the UWI online portal. Well, we can use PAREC's website and it will take us to a portal where we can pay on UWI's website. We can use bank deposits, we can pay the UWI bursary, or we can use a wire transfer. Now, we should come to the conference because there are many people that's going to be there. We have Mr. Aldwin Ween as a speaker. He's the founder and CEO of WePay. We have Dr. Jillian Marcel. She's the CEO of Resilience Capital. We have Dr. Juan Sanchez Monroe. He's the professor at the Higher Institute of International Relations in Havana, Cuba. Now we have panelists coming from Canada, USA, Haiti, South Africa, Ghana, and of course Trinidad and Tobago.
Of course, Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah.
So you can find our information about the conference on our PAREC website. You can email us and you can visit all of our social media pages. We are on some Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I know that Corinne, Dr. Henry would have just mentioned some of these speakers, but tell us about the topics that can be discussed at the conference.
Finance, of course. Professor Prieto made mention of the fact of networking. There's the issue of human capital, because Africans in the diaspora started without capital. In fact, in August 1838, the then governments decided that they would ensure that they would not have access to land. So what they got was their freedom. They were not paid, and that's explains the reparations debate all now. Yes. So that the issue of human capital and also training for entrepreneurship. You know, entrepreneurs can be trained. People need to recognize the possibilities in themselves to start and grow businesses. So that would be an issue for the discussion. And we're going to have a panel discussion among a number of entrepreneurs who have made it over the last 10 years. 2 or 3 of them who were at the conference in 2013 are going to be there, explaining and showing people what they have had to do in the difficult years of that period, the 10-year period, so that it's hands-on in the sense that we have people who have had the experience themselves, in addition, of course, to the academic work that we have that documents the challenges that people have had. We'll be looking at cooperatives and other kinds of methods of organizing finance. You know, people recognize that cooperatives and credit unions and ways in which African people of African descent have mobilized capital, large funds of capital. And we have to see how now using the institutional structures in place or modifying the institutional structures in place, such finance can be utilized in forming and growing businesses.
Professor Prieto, I wonder if I can bring you in here, because what I'm hearing Dr. Henry saying is that there's a strong emphasis on finance and entrepreneurship as it relates to the African community. And so what are some of the other impacts that you're hoping that the attendees walk away with following this conference?
Well, I'm hoping they walk away with knowledge about even alternative forms of financing, even certain cooperative enterprises. You know, so we always hear about these individualistic entrepreneurs. But one thing we have to remember about African culture and societies, we stem from a system of cooperation that really engenders community building. So starting cooperative enterprises may be a good way for many of our aspiring entrepreneurs to really pool their resources together to start these enterprises, right? So we really need to channel that whole philosophy of Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. So we have to get back that village mentality to really start these enterprises, because we can't do it alone at times. So alternative forms of financing via the cooperative approach may be essential.
Yeah. One of the interesting things you mentioned earlier on, Professor, was that sort of action that you're taking. It's not just a talk shop. You're actually bringing people together so we can start that action. What sort of action are you hoping to see following this conference?
Well, we have to get boots on the ground as it relates to policies, So I think many of us are tired of just conferences that's just all talk, no action at all. So we really need to work with policymakers, be it right here in Trinidad and Tobago, the United States, Ghana, South Africa, and really utilize some of the ideas that were generated from the conference and actually apply pressure to policymakers and politicians to really help create the frameworks and the systems that will help these things come to fruition. So for the time for talk has ended. Time for action is now.
Time for action is now. Dr. Henry, I'm giving you 30 seconds. To anybody listening, tell them why they should attend this conference.
Because it liberates the entrepreneurship that resides among the population, and which, when people look in the mirror, they think other people have a head for business, but they don't. And we have to explore that myth. And in fact, one of the presenters would be talking about that myth of Africans having no head for business.
Yes. And Ms. Gregoire, take it home. Remind us where we can get information about the registration.
All right. You can get information on PAREC's website. That's www.paerc.org. You can also email us at panafric@gmail.com, PANAFRERC@gmail.com. You can call us at 663-2766, or again, 663-2766, and you can get us at the Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn pages.
Nice. Corinne, Dr. Henry, and of course, Professor Pareto, who is joining us on Zoom. Let me thank you all so much for coming in this morning. All the best with the conference, and I hope we understand how important it is to engender that level of entrepreneurship that you mentioned. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here on the Now Morning Show, we're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.